Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Millennium Force at Cedar Point. This is of course the legendary Intamin Giga Coaster, and while some people consider it a top 10 coaster in the world, I personally wouldn't even consider it a top 200 coaster in the world, and I'll explain why in this review. Just like all of Cedar Point's coasters, I want to start by talking about the view on the causeway, and this might be the most prominent coaster in Cedar Point skyline. I really could not imagine this park before 2000, because this park really looks amazing with Millennium Force in the skyline. I'll give it credit. This is the best looking coaster in the world. It looks incredible with that blue and white. I love that color scheme. Same with Hakuge. Those two are kind of the two best looking coasters in the world in my opinion, because they're blue and white and they're right next to the water. Take your pick. I think Millennium Force looks cooler just because it's huge. It's 310 feet tall, you know? You don't really get that with Hakuge or any other ride right next to the water like that. But anyways, you're going to start off by entering the plaza, and you're going to notice all the golden ticket awards, and it may or may not deserve them, but they're there, they're showing them off. And once you actually get into the queue line, you'll be met with a pretty lengthy wait. I only waited about a half hour given it was a Thursday at the end of August, so I bet it could get really busy. And I know from experience on hot nights, it could be really bad, like 2 hours plus. So definitely get here during early entry if you have early entry. If not, then you're just going to have to suck it up, because do not waste your time going here first thing. Now, something really important, once you actually get up into the station, do not go for the front row. I don't care what people say. I don't care that people say, oh, it's a magical experience or whatever in the front row. You will be wasting at least a half hour if you go for the front row. The line for the front row is egregious. Go for the back row, go for second to front, third to front, whatever. I personally usually go for the back because I'm not wasting my time like shuffling up to the front and pushing past everyone, and I'd rather just get that airtime on the first drop. So I'd go to the back if I were you, and it's usually not too much more of a wait than like row 14 or 15, usually just one extra cycle, and with these operations, it's fine. And these ops are really good. They really pump out the trains. Not quite the best at Cedar Point, but definitely really good. While you're in the station, you're going to be hearing that iconic soundtrack, which is pretty good. I don't think it's the best here. I personally like Top Thrill 2's, the whole Frontier Town soundtrack. Magnums especially. Magnums is just the greatest thing ever, but it's still fun. Now, once you get into these trains, you're going to pull down your Intamin T-bar. These are very comfortable restraints, and you do have a seat belt, but it doesn't really matter. So you're going to start out of the station, and you're going to start headed up that lift hill, and it is a fun lift hill, mainly because of that view. It's not the fastest cable lift in the world, but I don't think it should be, because again, you want to take in that view. It's truly one of the best views on any coaster. Honestly, I do like the view on Steel Vengeance and Magnum more, but it's up there. So then once you get to the top of this lift hill, you're going to head down that first drop. In my opinion, this is the worst Giga drop. Yes, below Panthurians. I do get that Panthurian doesn't have a sustained drop and it has the OTS restraints or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's a lot more powerful than any of the other Giga drops. And this thing's just weak. It has the same sustainedness of the B&M drops, but those drops already just give floater, but I'll give them credit. It's strong floater, especially on Orion. And this is just mid-tier floater, which is unfortunate. So then you're going to bottom out and hit a pretty intense valley before hitting this iconic turn. Everyone loves this thing. Everyone says they gray out. I remember graying out once back in 2021, but I didn't gray out this time. I'll admit, it's an intense turn. You definitely feel some G's, but don't get me wrong, this is no Panthurian's first turn. This is not the pull-out of King Dekka's launch. This is not an uber-intense moment. And it's at this point where you really realize this ride is all about the speed. If you love just feeling that wind in your face, feeling like you're flying at 90, 80 miles an hour, then this is the ride for you. But if you want actual airtime, if you want crazy transitions, this is not it. The transition in between this turn and the next turn going to the left is so graceful, so gentle, and some people might like that, but I like a ride that tries to rip your head off, and this is not it. The turn going to the left actually passes through a tunnel, so that's kind of cool. It really enhances the speed, but other than that, it's really a nothing turn. And then you hit a really, and I mean really, pointless airtime hill. This is one of the biggest letdowns you will ever experience on a coaster. It's this massive camelback. It looks like it should give at least floater airtime, but nothing happens. You stay right in your seat. After this hill, you're going to hit another turn going to the right, and this one's pretty fun. You just feel the speed a bit more here, and then you straighten out, feel the speed again. You notice a pattern? Yeah, it's all about the speed. And then you hit the second turn on Millennium Island, which is honestly almost as good as the first turn. It definitely piles on the positives. It definitely isn't as sustained as that first turn, but it's pretty solid. So then after this, you're going to hit another turn going to the right. This one's just short, so really no time to feel anything there except the speed. And then you hit another nothing hill, which, again, unfortunately, you don't come out of your seat. It looks like you should, but you don't. And then you hit a left turn through a tunnel. You'll definitely feel the speed there. And then you hit what is the best moment of the ride, in my opinion, and that is this speed hill. It's flowjector. It's definitely not ejector, but it's definitely stronger than anything else on this ride. And that's kind of a shame that this is the strongest moment of airtime. After this, you're going to hit a little turn to the left before a straightaway, and this whole section is just bleeding off speed. That's its only purpose. And then you hit one last turn to the right, which is unfortunately the most forceless turn on the ride. You don't really get any G's there. And then you slam into the brakes. Now, this brings up one of the cooler aspects of Millennium Force, and that is the block zones. You actually park in an unload station and not in the main station. Originally, they were planning on just making it 2 train operations, but Cedar Point did need that extra train, which, yeah, they did. It was absolutely a smart move not settling for 2 trains, because that line would be, oh my god, I can't even imagine it. But anyways, they got the 3 train operations, and you'll unload out of this unload station, which is kind of cool. And you can definitely tell this was the first of its kind. Not in terms of that was a mega coaster, but it was the first that was really this huge. And they definitely worked out a lot of kinks in the future. For example, that first set of brakes is nearly parallel to the ground, and they're fixed brakes. So if you're charging through the layout, you're going to charge through these sets of brakes, and vice versa. If you're crawling, you're really going to come to a dead stop on these, which can't happen because they need to send out those trains as quickly as possible and on time. They need to be consistent. So if you're crawling, then that's really going to throw everything off. Thankfully, Panthurian fixed this with a pretty angled section of brakes here. Something else Millennium Force has that got improved over time was the cable lift. Millennium Force's is pretty slow, which, like I said, actually helps the ride because you get to take in the view, but it definitely hurts operations because the ops have to wait for that catch car to come back, whereas now you do have to wait for the catch car to come back, but rides like Skyrush and Panthurian absolutely haul up the cable lift, so it's not as big of a deal. While I don't think Millennium Force is a top 5 coaster in the world or even top 5 at Cedar Point, I do recognize that it's really fun to look at all the nerdy aspects. So what am I going to rate Millennium Force? I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, given it is a low 8 out of 10, but I definitely recognize that it has a lot of pros, such as its speed, but it's definitely got a lot of cons, such as the fact that it has barely any airtime. So let me know what you guys think of Millennium Force down in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.